Hello everyone, I am Jordan Hansen from Cobalt Intelligence. If you've seen any of my videos before, you see that I talk heavily about automation and especially AI, especially right now. And this last week, I had the opportunity to really take AI, and it's heavily integrated into what we're doing. We use it for code help all the time, but I haven't really ever built a project from scratch with AI. Never.
Never in my life. The first time for everything.
And my background is in web development, back end and front end. So software, technical, all of that. I'm very comfortable with it. I built full production scaled millions of users websites with backends and front ends. So very comfortable doing it, but again, haven't done it with AI. And so I had this idea last week. I wanted to create a simple web app, and I wanted to generate a way to be able to do pickleball tournaments. So I'm a big fan of pickleball. I play pickleball a lot. And actually, you can find a link to this website here in the description, rabbitrumble.amora.com. And it's really just, it's super chill, right? It's supposed to be just something relaxed, and it's totally not finished production, but we did use it last week and it worked both of the back end and a front end, AWS Lambda functions and DynamoDB as a database, and Angular on the front end. So it was a fully functioning web app that worked really great. And I wanted to see if I could do it. And I did it in less than, certainly not a full week of time. I probably spent 10, 15 hours on it, kind of nights, weekends, and a little bit during the day using AI. And I kind of wanted to go through my thoughts here, the parts that were awesome and the parts that really kind of still need some improvement with AI. But overall, the experience was just A+. Like building a website, building any kind of web software thing now from scratch with AI is just a pleasure. It's like, you know, a lot of the stuff, but when you get to that crappy stuff, you don't know, you have to sit there researching. That's when AI comes in and really just smooths it out. And to really kind of summarize that, my goal was that, hey, let's see how powerful AI can be. And my experience was that it probably sped up the whole production process at least 10 times.
Oh man, that's huge.
At least 10 times, because I was able to get this whole thing top to bottom in less than a week, 10, 15 hours, like I said. Now, I've built sites before that are league sites that deal with things like league play, bracket play, all this stuff. And I know the complications that come with trying to organize algorithms to make sure certain teams play each other once, but not too much. We have to get them scheduled. We have to make sure they're on different courts or different locations for each one. I've done this before. And I know, it was a pain building this algorithm. So I was not looking forward to that. And I was hoping to be able to leverage AI to be able to make it easier. And it was a huge success. And it even got to the point where with this pool play, it was correcting my mistakes. Like I had this, I don't know why I thought this, but I was thinking, okay, we have 6 teams in each pool. We have 2 pools. And so I was like, well, if they're each playing 5 games, then that would be 30 games per pool.
I done the math. Checks out.
Right? Because, they play each other 5 times, 30 games per pool, so 60 games total. But I had to realize that they were playing each other in this, right? So it was only 15 games for each pool. And I was thinking 60 forever. I kept saying, why aren't there 60 games being created as we generated this algorithm? And it just kept coming back and saying, finally it provided the math. Like here, 2 times this equals this is this, and it's 30. And I was like, oh, 30. It gently corrected me and made it better. So I was really happy and impressed with that. Now to start off, I kind of just outlined my goals. Like I said, hey, I want to create a web app to generate a pickleball tournament. I'm going to have pool play. I'm going to have 2 pools of 6, and I want bracket playoffs after that. And I want to be able to do it with Angular as the front end and Tailwind CSS to help with the styles. And I said, bam, go. Now it was really great because it created all the correct command line arguments like, okay, npm init, how to install Angular, how to get the right packages installed for what we need, post CSS, Tailwind. So all the installation of all those packages was just a breeze. But one thing it didn't do great is that at the beginning, it started just outlining everything. Like it was like, okay, everything you're going to need to do. And all of it was like too summarized.
Hey! Take it easy.
So it didn't do a good job of like breaking it down. So I had to say, hey, let's go into a small piece. Let's just get the UI for the homepage. We just want to display the pools here. And then let's get the part, and we just go step by step. Let's do the brackets now. Let's do each pool. Let's do every round within the pool. How are they going to enter their scores? Are they going to need an input box? Okay, now let's build a back end here. And so I just had to break it down to small pieces. And I kind of got to the point where I started to feel like a product manager. And not only was I a product manager, but I was like a product manager / copy paste paster. That was my job. Copy paste the stuff. So I'd say, okay, here we go. Generate this. It would generate the code, that Angular code or whatever. I'd copy it. I'd paste it into VS Code. I'd run it. And then I'd look at it. And I said, hey, this needs to be mobile friendly. Mobile first, but also desktop. And so it did a really good job showing that. But if it didn't ever match, which it often did not, it wasn't perfect. The spacing maybe was messed up in mobile. Or it wasn't right in desktop. So I'd take a screenshot. I'd send it back and say, hey, this is wrong. Please fix. And it would be like, generate it out, copy paste. It said, and it would just do a great job with, and that was just like, I was product manager, except for my iteration time. Like normally with a product manager, they're like looking at, you do a demo day once a week or whatever. You look at it and you say, hey, here's some feedback or designer. And then the developer goes back, they fix it, they come back to you. So my loop was just teeny in that I could just screenshot, give it back. It would produce the code instantly or within seconds and then get it back to me. It was like, as I was doing this, I felt kind of silly because it was like, it probably did 90% of the coding. I did like 10% of my own little fixes here and there where I actually got in the code and made some changes, but 90% was done by it. And I was like, why am I even here? Like, why am I the one copying and pasting this? And so I see this world where the IDE, the developer, the code, whatever, is the LLM. Like you could just type to it and say, hey, I want to create an Angular app that does this, 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 and it just generates all the files itself. Like, why do I need to be there to copy and paste it? And then it's going to run it, or I could put npm start, whatever, something to generate the thing. I look at the web app and then I say, I just type into it, hey, look at this, or send a screenshot, and then it just updates the code there. Instead of right now, I'm typing into ChatGPT, it generates the code, I copy it, I paste it. And as I got farther along, it got to the point where I'd make those slight changes, right? Like let's say I'd cast a type as a different type or whatever. And so it would get it wrong over here because it didn't know what I had before. So every time it was like I'd copy my code from VS Code, like my current file, and I'd paste it to it and say, hey, this is my updated file for my brackets component. Will you fix this? And it would go, yes, and then it would do it. And it worked really well. But I was like, I have to copy from here, paste to here, run it, copy the code, paste it back. And it was just this back and forth motion. I just felt like, man, I'm doing nothing. Why do I have to copy and paste it? I'm just like, anyway, I see a world where the IDE itself is the language model. Like you could just talk to it directly. It generates all the code and it's all there. That will be a good day when that gets there. Because I had to do all this copying and pasting, my context window, which I know ChatGPT has an enormous context window that can handle, but I think the idea is it's ingesting all of that thing, all of that data, all of that text every single time you push enter. So just imagine, we probably copied back and forth. It generated the whole file. I copied it, pasted it. I'd copy it back, paste it back, go back and forth. So it had thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of lines of code. And it started to get really sluggish. Like I'd paste it in, I'd hit the go button, and then that browser tab would just lock up for like 5 to 10 seconds as it just submitted all that data back to or I don't know how it does it, but for sure it got laggier and laggier and laggier. Go over here and say app.routing. I don't know why that was that. Here's my routing page. This is annoying how much it takes to load, like how much that's to think, and it kind of goes slow. And I think it's just memory, a lot of it, not even the power of GPT 4.0, which you can't see, but I am using GPT 4.0 here, or 4, whatever you want to call Omni. But sometimes it gets really bad when it just gets caught and it doesn't understand what I'm trying to say. Maybe we can get some of that time here. Like it gets caught, it won't stop suggesting the same stuff. And it even got to the point where it started to be wrong, like to the point where I just had to create a new chat window, which sucked. Because now I had no context of the things I was talking about before. Like it didn't know they were talking about Tailwind. Didn't even know we were making a pickleball tournament. So some of the suggestions until that was corrected, until it started to pick up where we were off.
I've never met this man in my life.
He's my brother.
I got to a point, like there was an example where it kept generating Angular with like these bracket templates, like square bracket. Anyway, it was something that Angular did not support, but I couldn't convince it otherwise. I kept telling it over and over again to say, hey, Angular won't support this. This is not working. Everything I Googled showed that Angular wouldn't support it. And it was like, no, Angular will. I ensure that this, and to the point where I just was like, okay, stop doing it this way. This isn't going to work. Try a different method. And it did, and it actually worked. So at some point I just had to convince it to say, hey, this won't work anymore. Don't do it this way. This isn't the right way. Fix it. And it would. And that made it a lot better. As I went through this more and more, I think my web app was better polished, especially in this amount of time I gave it. Because a lot of times as I would go through, I had these high aspirations as I was developing like my own little fun web apps of all the cool animations and how smooth and good it was gonna look. But as I got to it, it would take me like, I would just start slowing down. I had to freaking research, why isn't this working? I don't know. I have to go research and take me all this time to figure out why the CSS didn't look perfect. And eventually it would just get cut because I was like, this is taking too much time. It's not part of the core functionality. It's a nice to have in my opinion. So I'm skipping it. Now AI made that so it wasn't a problem. I'd say, hey, I want an animation here. Even if it was wrong, I could just go back to it, give it to it, and it would fix it. So it really made it more polished because of the time I had and even my own patience, because it could complete those things in a short amount of time. Now there's other things that are kind of annoying. Sometimes remembering the DynamoDB queries, getting the correct amount, like those things correct and accurate. And I can figure them out, but I had to like look up the models of how this is supposed to be done, and it would just generate it. And that was just a huge advantage to have there. The other thing is that the code all felt felt very solid. Like I would look at it and it looked like it was already preparing for like errors. Like it would already handle exceptions gracefully. Like that was just something it did as a default. It would put Elvis operators in there just in case an Elvis operator is like a null checks, right? It would make sure that it was there before it went and tested further. So it would automatically catch those things. And those things are only come with experience. Or if you're kind of being lazy, you just kind of start generating things and you kind of just don't think about it and hope it doesn't break. And eventually it does and you get bit. But it was generating code that would be easily to do tests for. And I think that if I had created some kind of production level code, I would have said, hey, generate unit tests for this. And it would have understood the code so well that it could have just created those tests like a piece of cake. And it would have been very easy to do. If I was to create like a production code that I was going to sell, like a web app that I was going to sell in the future, maybe when I do that, I would probably from the beginning say, hey, you got to create this code testable because we're going to create unit tests for it. So be ready. And I think the code would have just even been better, and it probably would have been preparing unit tests as we go. So it just would have had a suite of unit tests already set, which would have been a great advantage. Now in this project, I was creating both a front end and a back end. Like I had a database, there was DynamoDB queries, there was AWS Lambda, and because it was helping me with both, like I would say, okay, we're going to go to the back end now. These are what the models are going to look like. It helped me even architect how the database should look like with PKs, like, partition keys and sort keys, and all of that was already in there. And I already was aware of it. So on the front end, when I said, okay, let's generate these out in the list, like it knew the data structure already. So it just, the front end was just perfect because it knew both sides. It knew the models already. It made it so easy just to integrate the whole thing. Like it could do all the mappings out to say, okay, well, I know what it needs to look like over here. So the back end is going to get these data from the teams, from the players, whatever, and put it all together and then send it back, which was a gigantic advantage. It made it so easy. I'm a software engineer at heart. Love software engineers. I love doing that work. Some maybe are scared of the AI taking over. I don't know that that's ever going to be fully there. There are still things that, man, if you weren't an engineer, that it broke to a level where to not have me have the knowledge I had, like the software know-how to come back and say, okay, this is what's weird. I can easily pick this out. Probably would have doubled my development time on this, maybe tripled, higher, maybe even put me at a standstill because I wouldn't have been able to go back and fix it. So let's leverage is what it is. It's going to make a normal developer 10 times more productive. To have a non-developer do it, I think would have been very, very challenging. And this is not to that point yet. So in my opinion, I don't think this is something that's going to replace developers. I just think it's something that's a huge, powerful tool that they'll be able to use they should be using to make themselves more productive. At the end of it all, the real truth is I just had a blast with it. It was so much fun. I felt so productive as I was whipping things out. I was just like, bam, copy, paste. And again, the big thing I'm looking for is that IDE that I can just talk to and I'll just generate the code as I go, like both sides, front end, back end, all of that. I want it to be fully aware of what I have and be able to make those decisions as I go. And really, that's just going to be like a huge leverage to be able to use. It was a pleasure. I think that if you're doing any kind of code development, you should be using AI. If you have developers on your team, they should be using ChatGPT or some kind of AI to be able to build their tools. It's such a powerful tool to help. Hope this has been helpful or interesting to you. If it has, hit the like, subscribe button and comment, and we'll talk to you later.